Hello, I'm Dango Rose. Welcome to the Mountaineer Podcast, where everybody's listening. The Mountaineer brings you the latest news of the peak-to-peak region, in print, online, through our podcast, social media, and special publications. Now, listen in to the latest news of the area with our local journalists.
Good morning, Mountaineer listeners. I'm your host, Tyler Hickman. A few weeks ago, Shay Castle reached out to me and asked if we'd be interested in running an episode of her new podcast, Boulder Valley Frequency, covering news and highlighting community voices across the county. Shay has been a Boulder journalist for over a decade, reporting for the Daily Camera, Boulder Beat, and most recently, serving as Boulder Weekly's editor-in-chief. She's also been working as an editor at the Mountaineer for the past month. On this week's episode, she sat down with Mountaineer's senior reporter Chris Kelley to check in on the town of Nederland's efforts to buy Eldora Ski Resort. Just a small heads up, they both reference a November 5th Nederland Board of Trustees meeting about the purchase, which has obviously already passed. At the meeting, the town reported the results of its lengthy due diligence process to evaluate the financial viability, administrative concerns, and property condition and environmental assessments, finding everything to be in good condition. The purchase price is set somewhere between $115 and $120 million, with a goal to return to the board with plans for a financial structure on December 2nd, and then to seek their approval at the December 16th meeting. You'll be able to read Chris's full story in our November 13th issue coming this week. That's enough for me. Here's Shay's full episode of Boulder Valley Frequency.
The frequency.
Good morning, Boulder County. It's Wednesday, November 5th. I'm your host, Shay Castle, and this is The Frequency, a weekly podcast covering the news, events, and voices shaping the Boulder Valley, quickly and calmly. This week's episode is sponsored by Jill Grano. Thank you to Jill for funding local independent journalism. Learn more about Jill's award-winning real estate work and community activism at jillgrano.com. Coming up, news on Nederland's purchase of Eldora Ski Resort. But first, the headlines. "2025 was a great year for Superior." So said Mayor Mark Lasis at the State of Superior on October 29th. The mayor shared highlights from the past year, including progress on recovery from the 2021 Marshall Fire. 75% of homes destroyed in the town are rebuilt or in process. Superior also saw its lowest ever vacancy rate for two of the town's commercial districts after a number of new businesses opened. The town of roughly 13,500 also boasts 23 parks, 17 playgrounds, 30 miles of trails, and 61 acres of open space, the mayor said, with a town budget of just over $50 million. Join members of the town council for a free coffee and casual conversation about town issues on the first Friday of every month. The next one is this Friday, November 7th, from 7:45 to 9:30 a.m. at 1500 Colton Road in Superior. Members of the media and the public can no longer listen to police scanners after Boulder Police Department encrypted its radios, according to reporting from the Daily Camera. The department has been considering encryption since at least 2020 due to security concerns. Boulder joins a growing number of cities whose once public emergency communications have gone dark. Journalists have long relied on police scanners to track crime, police activity, and emergent events, such as the Pearl Street firebombing earlier this summer, or the 2021 King Soopers shooting. In Boulder, they can also alert reporters to the presence of wild animals in highly trafficked areas. Now, the press and the public will be entirely reliant on information they receive from official police communications. Organizations such as the Colorado Freedom of Information Coalition have protested the move. The Boulder Star, the one you see lit up on Flagstaff during the holidays, will go live for the season on Tuesday, November 11th. You can watch the lighting on the Boulder Chamber YouTube channel from 6 to 6:30 p.m. Or just look up. That's the sound of me dropping off my ballot in South Boulder. Local elections were Tuesday, November 4th. We're recording this before results are in, but you can hear me on KGNU discussing them. If you're listening to the podcast before 9 a.m. on Wednesday, November 5th, tune in at that time to hear me live. If you missed that show, you can always catch up at kgnu.org. We have our first ever correction today. Actually, it's more of a clarification. In our October 22nd show, we spoke with Rosanna Longobetter about Elevate Boulder, a pilot program providing cash to low-income residents. We reported that the city's funding of that program will end in December. That is true for this cohort, including the 3 participants we heard from. But the program might continue on for a new group of Boulderites with the help of a community partner. There's a live fund at Community Foundation Boulder County to revive that assistance. Learn more and contribute to the fund by clicking the link in our show notes. A note on corrections and clarifications. Obviously, we want to get everything 100% right, and we work hard to do so. But when we don't, and this is true for all journalists, it's important to let listeners know. It keeps us accountable and it keeps you properly informed. You should never trust a news outlet that doesn't correct the things it gets wrong. Just a little media literacy for you on this Wednesday morning. Eldora. It's Boulder County's hometown ski resort. So many residents were excited last year when Nederland, the town closest to Eldora, announced it would attempt to buy the resort from current owners, Powder, as the adventure lifestyle company seeks to offload its various ski resorts in numerous states. With ski season upon us, we thought it was time to give listeners an update. So we asked someone who has been following the story since day one, Chris Kelley, senior reporter at the Mountain Ear. Thanks for joining, Chris.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity.
What's the most up-to-date information we have on the sale?
It's being reported by the town of Nederland that the sale is in its final stages. The Board of Trustees, they've been meeting behind closed doors pretty regularly since they signed the letter of intent to purchase Eldora back in July. They've been pretty confident that this sale is going to go through in their conversations between the town manager and trustees and their public meetings about the 2026 budget. They've just been mentioning big changes next year, and it's all been in pretty positive light. So on November 5th, the town will hold its first public discussion on this since July. They'll be reviewing several different draft agreements in preparation for a final vote on November 18th. So that's just about a month off from original projections, where they thought the sale would be finalized in October.
So that's the timeline. What other basic details do we know? Do we know how much it's going to cost?
The most recent information that they released on that agenda for the November 5th meeting, it sets a purchasing price between $115 and $120 million. As for details of the sale, the town has completed that due diligence process. And, that involved the hiring of proper counsel, the setting up of the financial structure, the figuring out of insurance, obtaining land permits, and creating a maintenance plan. And also that onboarding of the 700 new town employees, which they recently actually hosted their first orientation. So I do know that a full property condition assessment and a phase 1 environmental site assessment were conducted. And, the town is saying pretty much that it's a viable asset, that it's a money-making endeavor, and it's well-maintained, and that there's no risk in this acquisition. The town will be seeking approval from the U.S. Forest Service concerning a special use permit for the use of their land. And they'll also need to finalize an agreement with Altera about the Icon Pass, and also a 2-year transition services agreement with Powder. And all of that needs to be finalized in order for them to have a final vote on November 18th.
Okay, so it sounds like from that, even though the sale might be finalized, it will really take 2 years before Nederland is fully owning and operating the ski area.
Exactly. I'm guessing it's going to be close to the status quo of how they've operated previously for the next 2 years.
What is the funding mechanism that the town is planning to use for the purchase?
It's pretty much right from the start. The plan has been to fund the acquisition by securing revenue bonds through an established enterprise fund. They have the fund already set up. It's called the Mountain Recreation Enterprise Fund. The revenue bonds would be secured by the revenue from the ski operation, in which, according to what little tidbits they've told us, the ski operation is profitable. In fact, Jonathan Kane has said on multiple occasions that the revenue from the ski operation can take on the debt that the town will accrue from the sale. Not only that, but also the operational costs and supposedly enough left over to help Nederland with infrastructure projects. And they're pretty hopeful that this setup is going to work for them. The second iteration of the town's FAQ documents states that this funding method came from a collaboration with an independent local group, which is 303 Ski. The funding method protects the town and protects the general fund from taking any hit in the event of some kind of failure with the operation. Fundamentally, the method makes Eldora a government-owned business funded by its own revenue, not taxes, which means that any Eldora-related government action can be passed without the need for a public vote. That's, to me, is pretty strange and gives me pause a little bit, because it kind of makes this like a lesson in how private investors can circumvent public voting. If they're the ones handling the bonds, then they're the ones that the town is going to be practically indebted to. They've helped the town broker this deal. So, they helped the handshake happen between Powder and the town. And they're local business owners and people who have been in the industry in some form, I believe, in management of ski operations in the past.
Speaking of finances, Nederland recently experienced a devastating fire that destroyed 20 businesses, which accounted for a significant portion of the town's sales tax revenue. Do we know if that fire is going to impact the planned purchase of Eldora, either from a financial or a logistical perspective?
Jonathan Kane recently was interviewed by CBS News about the impacts of the fire. He doesn't believe that there will be much financial impact on the Eldora acquisition, but certainly he must be really keeping his fingers crossed that this deal is going to go through at this point, because, the town was already struggling really with being broke before the Lakeview fire, and it took 20 plus businesses and the revenue that they provided.
Thank you so much for being here, Chris. Is there anything else I should ask you? Anything else you want listeners to know?
I think we need more pragmatism and definitely more skepticism rather than hope. Instead of hoping for a good outcome, I'd like to know who Nederland is about to be indebted to and what their intentions are. And I'm eagerly awaiting this NDA to be over so we can maybe get some direct answers there. But also, I will say Jonathan Kane's management of the emergency and the relief efforts in the aftermath of the Lakeview fire was definitely inspiring. So that gives me hope that, he's the right person to usher the town into this next chapter.
Spoken like a true Watchdog reporter and community member. I'll say that. You do a great job of balancing those.
That's the important thing, is being a community journalist, community first.
You can attend that town council meeting today, Wednesday, November 5th, at the Nederland Community Center. The meeting starts at 7 p.m. The Eldora update will follow a presentation on the 2026 budget. Eldora opens for the season November 7th. Thanks again to Chris Kelley and the Mountain Ear. You can subscribe to the paper and support community journalists like Chris by visiting themtnear.com. That's themountaineer.com. Disclosure, I also work part-time for the Mountain Ear. Find ways to support the town and businesses impacted by the fire at the link in our show notes. Join us next week for another mystery guest interview with Frequency co-founder Jeff Rosick. Let us know what you want us to cover in a future episode. Email boulderfrequency@gmail.com. You can support us on Patreon at Boulder Frequency Pod. Before you go, here's one more thing.
long as we can remember, the working people of New York have been told by the wealthy and the well-connected that power does not belong in their hands. Fingers bruised from lifting boxes on the warehouse floor, palms calloused from delivery bike handlebars, knuckles scarred with kitchen burns. These are not hands that have been allowed to hold power. And yet, over the last 12 months, you have dared to reach for something greater. Tonight, against all odds, we have grasped it. The future is in our hands. My friends, we have toppled a political dynasty.
That's going to do it for today, folks. Special thanks again to Shay Castle for sharing the episode and having our very own Chris Kelley on this week. If you like what you heard and you crave more countywide news, you can listen to Shay and Boulder Valley Frequency on all of your podcast platforms. As always, you can find the Mountaineer podcast on our website, Spotify, Apple Music, or wherever else you get your podcasts. Make sure you like and subscribe to get the updates the moment we hit the airwaves. And drop us a line, too, if you think something deserves coverage. Send your thoughts to me, Tyler, Tyler, @themountaineer.com, or to Jamie Lammers at media, MEDIA, @themountaineer.com. We'll see you next time.
And that's it for our show. Subscribe online to get more access to more news, weekly updates to our community calendar, and a link to our YouTube channel by visiting themountaineer.com. Be sure to use the coupon code PODCAST when subscribing for a 10% discount, only available to our listeners. If you are in the local peak-to-peak area, be sure to pick up a print edition of The Mountaineer at a local business. I'm Dango Rose. Thank you for listening.